Yo, what's good, guys? Welcome back to another MidCourt Report. Today we're going to be talking about my top 25 teams, um, teams that I have going up and down. We're going to try doing this every week. So let's go ahead and hop right on into it. So first, as you guys see, I have Auburn, who just beat obviously a good Tennessee team, and they only won by 2. It was a very low-scoring game. But they got the job done. That's all you can do. That's all you can ask for. No matter how the game goes, if you win, it's going to count as a win. So they got the job done. Their only loss coming to Duke. But that's who we have next. As you can see, Duke, they just beat a hot Wake Forest team. They're actually playing right now against NC State. They're down 7 at halftime right now. So just waiting for that game to come back on. And then Iowa State. They just beat a solid Arizona State team by 15. I know Arizona State's not the greatest team, but they're solid. And then also here soon they're going to be playing against Arizona. So we're going to see how that game goes. I'm just going to go ahead and go on a limb. I'm going to say Iowa State wins by 7. I don't know. And then Bama, 2-0 week in the SEC. They beat Vanderbilt and LSU. Vanderbilt, obviously, a very solid team. They just beat Kentucky. So I do have them towards the bottom of this list. So yeah, that Bama team, they're very good. I'm not gonna lie to you, they are very good. And they had a solid week against Vanderbilt and LSU. And then next up, we got Florida, another team in the SEC. Another team in the SEC who had a 2-0 week in the SEC. They beat South Carolina and Georgia. So, yes, they had a solid game and whatnot. Obviously, you can't go wrong. You know what I'm saying, when you're playing any kind of SEC team. My bad. South Carolina who'd they barely just lose to? They barely lost to some team. I forget who it was. Was it Tennessee or something like that? I don't know. Someone. They barely just took a loss to the other night, not that long ago, and the SEC. So Florida staying about right where I had them. I know they went up 1 for me. That's just because I had to do a reevaluation. I'm stuttering a lot, but I had to do a reevaluation. Man, you know what I'm saying? of my top 25. So as you see next, I got Houston. They had a 2-0 week as well. They beat number 12 Kansas by 6, and I know they go down by 3. Yes, they do have that win against Kansas. The game's actually coming back on right now, so if you guys see me looking down a little bit, that's what I'm doing. They have that win against Kansas by 6, Houston does. But I took them down 3 because I just thought Florida, Bama, and Iowa State were just better. Last week, I had them at 3 just because I like what I see from them. But I did some thinking. I did a little more research and whatnot. I just don't think they're better than Florida, Bama, or Iowa State, so I dropped them down 3. They're still very good, so to be at 6, it's still very, very good. And then number 7, we got Michigan State. Michigan State had a good win against Rutgers. They still have that Illinois win. So yeah, they had a solid week as well. Tennessee obviously had a solid week, but they dropped just a little bit because of that loss to Auburn. Obviously, it was a 2-point loss, and you can't really fault a team when they lose to the number 1 team in the country. But I moved them down 1 just because Michigan State had that good win against the Rutgers. And so, yeah, Marquette, they had a solid win against Villanova. Villanova obviously not one of the best teams, but they're solid. They're good enough. They're good enough to make some, I want to say a deep run, but maybe Sweet 16 run in the tournament. So Marquette, they get a solid win and they move up one. Obviously, Kansas, I got next. Kansas, they lost to number 6 Houston by 6 points. I know they do go up one, but that's because of a couple teams below them. And then we got Purdue. They had a blowout win against Michigan. So Michigan, they dropped pretty badly for me. They got absolutely worked by Purdue. And then Kentucky. This is why, although Kansas lost to Houston by 6 points, I had them go up still because of this Kentucky team. They're on a 2-game losing streak, dropping one against Bama, obviously, who's a good team. And then they just lost to Vanderbilt, obviously, who is another good SEC team. Is just not getting the recognition. So, yeah, that's why Kentucky went down 3. Kansas goes up 1 because of it. And then next up I have Texas A&M. Texas A&M had a 1-point loss to Texas. The reason why I have them staying the same, though, is because they beat Ole Miss. I think Texas is also a solid team that a lot of people don't really have on their radars. But I have Texas as my coming up team. They're outside my top 25 still, but they're on their way up, that's for sure. And then I got Mississippi State, another team who is staying still. They had that loss to Tennessee, but then they had that South Carolina win. I know it doesn't really make sense, but I don't think any other team below them deserves to jump them for any reasons or anything. And then St. John's I have next. They had a 2-0 week, a solid win against Xavier, who obviously everybody knows Xavier's solid. They've beaten a lot of good teams this year. I know they're getting votes to get into the top 25 right now, and they've had a lot of good games. So St. John's is gonna move up a little bit for me. I think they move up 3, yeah. And then next up I have Oregon. They dropped one. They dropped one because they dropped a game against Minnesota. They probably could have dropped more, but I like their win record. I like the teams that they've beaten. So they only dropped one for me. Missouri, they jump up 4. Although they drop a game to Texas, like I said earlier, Texas is a good team. They're better than what I think people give credit for. They beat Ole Miss by 8, so they lose to Texas by 8. Then they beat Ole Miss by 8, which is actually why I have them 4 higher because of that Ole Miss win. But I also had to reevaluate, and I don't think a couple of teams below them is better than them, so I just had to move them up as well just because of that. Last week was really just my get the feel of what I'm doing and whatnot, and I never really uploaded that one, but this is my first one, so here we are. And then I got Louisville. They had a 1-0 week. They got a week off, a bye week. But man, they blew out a solid SMU team. I don't think SMU is bad. SMU is supposed to be one of the best teams in the ACC, along with like Clemson, Louisville, and Duke, and then Wake Forest obviously is up there. So SMU is supposed to be up there, but they blew them out, beat them by 25. I thought that game was gonna be close. If you watched my last report, it wasn't even close to being close. It was like from the get-go, Louisville was clear. They were clearly the better team. And then Memphis, they had a 2-0 week. Memphis, they jumped up 1 just because of their 2-0 week. But they just destroyed UAB. They just absolutely destroyed them. And then Illinois, I got Illinois next. I noticed after I made this, right before I started recording, that what you guys are seeing on the screen is not actually correct. Illinois is supposed to be on there, so UConn is actually supposed to be out of the top 25. I realized that literally right as I was about to start recording. So we're not going to talk about UConn because they're not supposed to be there. Illinois is supposed to be 20th, and then from there down till Michigan is supposed to be 25. But Illinois, they lost to Marquette, but they beat Northwestern. So I actually have them drop a little bit. They were a little higher last week for me. They're around where Missouri was, 17, so they dropped just a little bit. And then Texas Tech, they beat Oklahoma State, and Cincy, they had a 2-0 week, and they're obviously a solid team as well with a couple of very solid wins. So they jump up into my top 25 for the second week in a row. They jump up, though. They're 21 instead of 23 where they were last week. And then I got Ole Miss. They went and had a 0-2 week in the SEC. Obviously, the SEC is the best conference. But they lost to Texas A&M and Missouri, so they dropped a lot. I had to have them behind Missouri no matter what. So I didn't know if I was going to have them ahead of Illinois or behind them. That was really where I was struggling was, are they better than Illinois or worse? I personally think, as of right now, Illinois deserves to be higher than them. And then Vandy, they jump into my top 25 for the first week this year. First time this season. They beat UK, and they still have their win over Tennessee. Vandy is a very solid team. A lot of people underestimate them, I believe. So, I mean, you can't do much about it. Like, if you beat UK, who's obviously a good team, you beat Tennessee, who's obviously a good team, you're in one of the strongest conferences. You are in the strongest conference, and you get those 2 wins, you're gonna move up, man. Like, there's no doubt about it. You deserve to move up. So Vandy jumps into my top 25 at 23 after those 2 wins. And then Clemson, they jump into my top 25 as well. They had a 2-0 week in the ACC. Obviously, ACC is not the greatest, but they beat Virginia Tech and Syracuse. And obviously, those are 2 decent wins. They're not solid. They're not very good. They're just you know what I'm saying? But Clemson, they are 17-4. They lost to Louisville, so I have them a little farther down. They did only lose to Louisville by 10, and they played a good game against Louisville. I haven't really checked to see who else they lost to. I know they don't have any crazy wins yet, because they're in the ACC, but they're battling for the ACC title right now. They're in the battle for it. So we'll see how that goes. And then at number 25, I have Michigan. They had a 4-point win against Penn State, but they did lose to Purdue. I couldn't hurt them too much because it's Purdue, but they dropped about 5 because I had Clemson and Vanderbilt jumping into my top 25. I think I actually had Michigan at 21 last week, so all my stuff is messed up in here because I realized I don't have Illinois in it. So just forget the picture on the screen, to be honest. But that's my top 25. I'm going to go out on a limb. Next week, I'm going to say Clemson and Vandy probably rise, depending on how well they play. I know Vanderbilt's got a tough schedule, obviously, because they're in the SEC. Clemson, I think they go 2-0 again. Louisville's got Wake Forest, so they might rise, depending on how Wake Forest plays, because they're a hot team right now. They barely just lost to Duke, and Duke's actually coming back in this game right now against NC State in the second half. So we're gonna see how that turns out. And then Michigan, I didn't really see who they play, but I could see them falling out of my top 25 and possibly being replaced by another team like Gonzaga or someone. But yeah, there's my top 25 for you guys. Thanks for coming out for another MidCourt Report. And I'll have a video out for you guys Wednesday. I upload every Sunday and Wednesday, and then I'll probably have videos here and there that aren't on Sunday and Wednesdays. So it's definitely a 2-video week, 2 videos per week, and then maybe even more depending on what else I can make videos about, talk about. Maybe if there's just one team y'all would like to see me talk about, I make video on just that team, like a team that's super hot, like Duke. What are they on, a 13 winning streak? So we'll see. Anyways, thanks for y'all stopping by. Peace out.